And welcome, live stream Friday afternoon, episode 183. I thought we'd do a little live stream, and we're still gonna have some topics. We're gonna go over some lost episodes of the Between Two Wheels podcast and your lost season. They correlate, and who's behind this all. UK, they have some issues, some legal issues, some optical issues. We're also gonna talk about, maybe this is a new thing, breaking the COVID bubble. Some things that make you go, some winners and losers, what's been on tap for local racing, riding, that is, and all your comments coming up now. And you know what? You can make your comments known. I will put them right up on screen, and we will have a discussion of them if you want to join in. I posted this out, so if you're live and you want to join in, that's perfectly fine. If not, I'm just going to do a show. I'm just going to do a regular show, and thought maybe we can put some interest into what you think is a good time to do this. Personally, if I do a live stream like this, and actually this is what you're seeing here is going to be, I got some people coming in. And look, this is the great thing when you're watching online. I can put this right up on the screen. John Novikov says, "Hi, Mom." And he says, "Oh, shiz." I don't know what that means. Neither one. Welcome, John. Maybe a good time you can let me know when with this, because this is how I do it. I set up the show. I actually stream it to private on YouTube, and then it's just ready to go, and do a little bit of editing for the audio portions later on. So as I'm going to go through here, we'll talk about some things. If you have some comments, we'll put them up on the show, and we'll walk through and have a good conversation. If John's the only one, maybe we'll just have him join us. I don't know what your video's like. Last time you were in your house there. Some lost episodes on the B2W podcast. So I was trying to go back and see some things, and I suddenly noticed that episodes 159 to 176 were all completely removed from the catalog on the podcast catchers. So it was just gone, and I kind of freaked out, sent a request into my podcast provider. They came back and said, look, the 159 happened to be the one where I took the breakdown of the Florida kid with the cop. So maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. Anyway, we're posting those back up slowly but surely. I'm just doing 2 or 3 or 4 a day. We're all the way through 164 now, so we'll do a few of those just to kind of. I want to get them back into the catalog because it's interesting for to go back and ever. There's some good interviews there. Jason Williams was missed. Jonathan Baker was missed. Paul Mitchell was missed. Jonathan Scriven. Any of those that I was doing kind of over the break, just kind of out the window. So we'll add some of those back in. And it was actually fun. And what prompted me to do this was there was a live stream of Barry Yanni. And I had posted that back up, and I was listening to that. Curt had mentioned something about it, and it was fun to listen to the live stream, get the interactions, and it was also it's just easier, like I said, to kind of just. So what do we have? Kind of the news of the week. Well, Velo Promo, they have announced that they're closing shop for the 2020 season, and maybe I get their actual note here, their announcement online, and we could just take a look at it all together. So basically they're saying we're done and over. We can't do this for the rest of the year. So, good luck on your racing. It's a little small. How about a little bigger there? Okay. So Velo Promo, riders, officials, and other friends. Current news. Given the continuing issues with COVID-19 here in California, and given state and local health and other county and city agencies mandates and advisements, and they covered it all there. Velo Promo has no choice but to cancel the remainder of the racing season for 2020. Hope for a better year and return to racing in 2021. Very sad. They go on to say, we have one possible exception, the Athlon TT scheduled for September 5, south of Merced. Okay, so we've got maybe that going. Merced County has not yet given us permit to, and this is the problem. I think it's permitting is going to be an issue, or in a lot of those counties, maybe they're like cities, hey, we're good with it, but it's the optics involved. But if they do, we can only operate the race under guidelines and within the safety and health of all concerned. It will take cooperation of everyone to make it work, including 12 days racing we had in 2020, Early Birds, Cantua, Pine Flat, Snelling, Merced, Madera, may be all that we can do this year. We are sorry that we cannot do other than the 18 planned. We can financially survive if we can financially survive next year. We plan to be back with all 30 race days, including Santa Cruz, Copperopolis, Patterson Pass, Dunnigan, Winters, Giro, Oakland, and the rest. on the Northern California 2021 schedule. Thank you for your support and participation in Velo Promo races since 1978. So, boom, they're gone. It's kind of just a premonition of really what we're going to be seeing happening, I think, more and more. I didn't even know how the world tour stuff, they said there, I saw a news report today, little blurb basically saying the financial status of the world, of the health of the world tour is only going to be determined of if the tour can go on or not. In other words, the tour doesn't go, this could be, they're saying, could be the end of it. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's obviously interesting. What came about with this Velo Promo was then some people, and this has been going around for a little while, but trying to do a GoFundMe to raise some funds for Velo Promo. And I just thought maybe we would post out what we had with that as well. So Velo Promo, making history of Velo Promo. Mary Maroon had organized this. It says here, $12,000 of $5,000 goal. So they've obviously gone over that. And I just also got a text here, or not a text, but I saw this on Facebook. Jason Graffath had posted, Thirsty Bear Cycling just sent a chunk of our 2020 racing budget to the Velo Promo GoFundMe. Jason, you couldn't have deviated that to the South Canal Time Trial Series? With racing canceled this year, we are asking all teams that can to do the same. Let's keep VP and their awesome races alive 2020. So that was really cool of Thirsty Bear to do that. Will Data-Driven Athlete, will they be able to do that? Well, here's our racing budget. We don't really have a racing budget. Our riders kind of kick everything in themselves, and that's. But it's not a bad thing to go ahead and donate. I mean, look at almost $13,000, $12,500 of the $5,000 goal. I think that's going to maybe help them out. Maybe you're going to get a little softer cotton shirt if you end up winning a race or getting in the top 6 or so at a Velo Promo race because of this. I mean, that could be the benefit. I might donate more just because of the possibility of getting a softer shirt. Those shirts are like burlap, but we do thank Velo Promo for their efforts and their work. And hey, go donate to that if you want to. UK cycling. I thought these were some interesting. Let's go back here. John Novikov says, permit insurance issues, not lack of rider interest, not with 60 fit guys showing up for every training ride. Maybe this changes rider attendance when the season opens up. Well, assuming the season opens up, right, John? You're right with that, but I think there's even within that, we've had shows here, right? Security versus liberty, and there's still a lot of that going on. So, with the extra restrictions, my wife just went out to a place and a friend, and even if you're sitting outside now, you can't just have a drink. You have to have food with that because they are closing bars. So that's the way they're doing it. Even with restaurants, you have to actually order food with a drink. So if you just want to get an adult beverage or a Coke or Pepsi or whatever. So anyway, the point is these things are being very restricted, and permitting is a problem with these little towns and these little municipalities and cities, because I think even if the fathers in the town and the city council and everything, they want to go forward with it, there's probably a few in there that would push back, and then they don't want to get licensing issues going on with whatever they else have in the town. That's kind of how the crackdown is now. Hey, we're not going to go send the police in there. We're just going to send the quasi police, which is we're going to pull your liquor license. We're going to do some other things like that. And it doesn't just mean that the liquor license forces, the SMUD and all those, that they don't have a police force. I saw a SMUD truck out there not too long ago, full on, looked like an armored SUV. So, hey, SMUD come shut you down just like that. Thanks for the comment. UK cycling, they had two news stories came out here, and this is a slow news day. This is why I'm trying to do a live stream. If you guys want to join in, we have, I think that John's the only one. John and I are participating here. But if you have any other questions or other comments, we'll definitely go on those routes. But there was an issue that came up recently with the British cycling and their 2012 Olympics, and British cyclists part of secret ketones trial for the 2020 London Olympic Games. Riders were warned of potential anti-doping complications and side effects. What's kind of interesting, let's go there. What's kind of interesting about this one, you read through it, it's not illegal. The ketones, as a matter of fact, remember, Tom Dumoulin just went from Sunweb. He went over to Jumbo-Visma, right? And with Jumbo-Visma, they were part of the, I don't want to say the MPCC, that's an extra doping council that tries to hold you to higher standards. We talked about that before, where Chris Horner had trouble because his Lampre team was in there. He was trying to then ride the Vuelta, but he still was taking some cortisone stuff. He was within the legal limits, but not within the MPCC. So Dumoulin decided to cut out of the MPCC altogether. He says, oh, look, they're not taking riders' health serious enough with COVID. And so they're somewhat hypocritical. And yeah, maybe I'm a little hypocritical, but I'm going to pull out because they deem that ketones are not appropriate. And I think they are. Well, the team pushes that to the Jumbo team. Anyway, so he's been on board with that. And this was a study back here in the Olympics, and doesn't say which, does it say just cyclists? Yes, it says cyclists. So they had them sign some waiver. They let them know that there could be some possible side effects. Some of them cut out of the, so let's just read some of this here. Ketones, a synthetic form of energy source produced during fasting, are not banned under anti-doping rules, but have caused ethical concerns given their supposed performance enhancing effects and health concerns given the potential side effects. So anyway, this info came out here. Athletes had to sign waivers to accept full responsibility for any associated risks, along with non-disclosure agreements to keep it all private, in order to counter any negative perceptions and publicity arising from the potential leak. UK Sports was set to launch a PR plan focused on Team GB being ahead of the curve compared to its competitors. So it sounds a little Sky-like on this. WADA might exercise their right to regulate and collect blood samples and retrospectively test old samples. This may occur if there were under any pressure from the media to if the concept was to leak. However, ketosis, this is a part of the thing they signed, I think, it is a temporary physiological state and would be difficult to prove or test with any post-event samples. Anyway, it was part of this too was talked about cyclists going through there and actually withdrawing from it during the actual during the Olympics. See if I can find what that is, because they were having some issues, some side effects that are talked about here: throwing up, nausea, others health concerns. I don't see it in this article necessarily, but it is interesting that they had this process going. And part of the problem with you, when you look at that and you're reading there and the condemnation of what this whole issue is these riders still have agency. And I don't know why during the Olympics, you're thinking that this is going to be the time that you want to test something brand new. I mean, for a lot of riders, they're really not doing that at all. They're kind of going to what they normally do. You don't want to deviate too far. You've got this plan, you know what to do on race day. And why are you going to then muck it up with some secret little scenario here with the ketones? Whether they work or not, that's another interesting factor. And it doesn't really say anything if this whole process came out. What also made me think of that situation that had been just a little bit ago was that for this other story in the news here, former track sprinter Jess Varnish loses appeal in British cycling case. So what's also kind of interesting that she's track. This goes back to Sutton, who had been with them. I'm trying to remember I don't think he'd been with Sky and then Team GB, and there was all kinds of accusations about him harassing and sexually. And when you look at that, it's like, well, he had called some of them bad names, and that wasn't also good. But what's interesting about this one, as far as I can tell, is that this is more of an employment issue, and whether she was actually under Team GB or like a sole proprietor, and their rules are probably a little different than they are here in the States. But the 29-year-old wanted to see governing body BC and funding agency UK Sport wanted to sue them for wrongful dismissal and sexual discrimination. In January, Varnish lost her employment tribunal after the judge ruled in favor of British cycling and UK Sport, prompting her to launch an appeal. On Tuesday, Judge Mr. Justice Chowdhury ruled in favor of British cycling once again, saying the original tribunal, quote, had not erred in its approach to the assessment of employee status. And that's the kind of the interesting part here. And this is what you have. I don't know, maybe we should talk to Mike Sayers at some point about how cyclists are determined. You know, we did this with Dr. Brayley, and kind of how weird it is for cyclists because they're sole proprietors, but you're working for his company. And so that you've got a weird thing with health insurance as an example. And, you know, Olympic athletes aren't necessarily the well taken care of in this case. So Varnish claims British cycling had extreme control over her and other athletes, and that she was discriminated against. Former coach Shane Sutton, she pulled from the elite track program in 2016, shortly before she made public allegations of discrimination by Sutton. Sutton denied the allegations, but an internal investigation upheld that he, quote, used inappropriate and discriminatory language towards Varnish. Well, shame on him. Probably shouldn't be doing that. I bet it is pretty tough to be, and I think some years ago it was much, much worse, being a female, either over in Europe, maybe not so bad in the States, but under these regimes, it's difficult enough. You read stories of Greg LeMond as an example in the 80s, 70s, 80s. He goes over to Europe. He's wearing sunglasses. You're like, dude, you don't wear sunglasses. Well, then that kind of became the norm. He then wants to have his wife with him during, between racing and at a race. You don't do that. I mean, his training was different, and so there's all these European techniques and training techniques and everything the norms that you have, and then he's breaking the rules. Well, imagine trying to be a female in the sport at that time as well, or even a little bit thereafter. It's probably a little bit more difficult when you have a lot of this Eastern European. Not Eastern European, but old world European world where they didn't even want women on the tour. They couldn't even do masseuse stuff. So that's a bit tough. So British cycling, Chris Froome, part of this whole British cycling stuff coming up. As we know, he's leaving and going to Israel Cycling Academy. It's going to be very interesting to see what that team, Israel Startup Nation, what that team does to try to get in back support for him. There was questions of whether he was going to go to Bahrain, because one of the former Sky guys, I wanted to say Sutton, but I don't believe it's him. I'm trying to remember which one it is, that had been with Sky, had moved over to Bahrain, and he was part of that. Questioned where there's, anyway, he's over at Ineos now, or he's with Ineos. He's going to be with them in the, and just the whole Sky presence, once again, going back to seeing this Lance 30 for 30, which we talked about, and then reading Jonathan Vaughter's book, actually more of the book that I was reading the whole time when Sky was just starting to come into existence. And actually was it during that 2009 tour? I think it was part of that whole deal where they were trying to get Brad Wiggins over to Team Sky, and just the kind of dirty games they were playing there just kind of made you feel And then now we've had Sky kind of be the dominant factor for so long, and I think everyone's just kind of done with that. So are we shitting on British cycling? Not necessarily. It's been good to see them focus and up their game, and incredibly so. Let's assume that they're doing it all legally. And if that's the case, that they're doing it all legally, then, hey, it's kind of exciting. It's not a big deal. All right. I had another thing about cyclic ads. I don't know if you've ever seen some of those. I'm going to maybe save that for next time, but because I had a little clip I wanted to play and we'd talk about it. Basically, the problem I have with some of this is we have this relationship of cycling and cars, and we're trying to live together cohesively on all these kind of things. A friend just got hit by a car this week. Not bad. He's able to resolve everything out with it. We've had pictures in our intro. It shows Scott Hooper falling down, hitting a rock and going out into the cars. So you have these issues where, there's some companies and some advocates that any bike wreck, they try to utilize those to kind of funnel in to get a wedge to enhance the notoriety or the thought process around protecting cyclists. Totally get that. But I saw this one cyclic ad, and I've seen a few of them that they have. It's a camera on the front and on the back, and they'll show interaction either with cars or with like traffic islands or some other things. And they push those out as just like, oh, we've got to take action, and this is a horrible thing. I've seen more than one of those. I know two specifically where it looked like it's not anything to do with fault of the traffic, not anything to do with the fault of the way the road is formed, and it's the cyclist's fault. And I just saw one recently, and it was abysmal. And they're like, "Oh, look at this. This is the horrible. This way this road is formed and constructed, and this poor cyclist." And when you look at it, and you're like, "Oh, the cyclist just didn't know what he was doing, and he went down." Well, I have a clip of that. I'll show it. Maybe we'll do it another time, because I just don't have it really up and running and ready to go. COVID bubble. What is the COVID bubble? Well, you're getting some teams now, and also in the NBA, where they are trying to do team events, team rides, and like camps. And so they're putting the whole team in what they call COVID bubble. And Sunweb recently had to send Michael Storer home for breaking this. And So it looks like it might be somewhat of a problem. Someone rider sent home from training camp after breaking coronavirus rules. Team said they have put strict precautions in place. Sunwood rider Michael Storr has been sent home after he breached coronavirus rules. He was sent away from the team's camp in Katai, Austria, after he failed to follow the strict precautions the team put in place. 23-year-old Australian left the team hotel to go shopping, despite rider being banned from leaving the premises to avoid risks of infection. Riders based in the camp split into 3 bubbles. No other guests currently staying at the hotel, and all the riders not allowed physical contact with the outside world. Spokesman told the website, "We are applying very strict precautions during our training camp in Austria. We want to limit the interaction with the outside world as much as possible to minimize the risk of infection in the various bubbles. World Tour racing is set to return." This is the exciting part. August 1 was Strade Bianca, the first race on the calendar. That will be hopefully exciting. That was one of the ones that one of the first ones that disappeared. Teams have been ramping up their training, and a number of outfits have been organizing camps in Europe. The men's, women's development team, Sunweb squads are all in Austria, 2,000 meters above sea level, to prepare for the season. We have suspended, which was suspended by the ECI back in March. Sunweb said on the team website, in close cooperation with the facility, extensive precautions regarding health and safety is being taken so that the team can put the finishing touches in their training safely and in a top sports environment. Okay, so this is good for them. They have this whole camp, and they're obviously trying to make it so they can participate. What's interesting, there's another one that just happened. This one is with the NBA, and as Kings rider. Yeah, I don't think the Kings are riding, but it was a Kings player. NBA player has to quarantine for 10 days momentarily after leaving the NBA bubble to pick up his food delivery. This is great. So Rashawn Holmes, NBA was not kidding around. They have strict policy for leaving the Disney World bubble. On Monday, the athletics Shams Sharina reported that, I don't even know what the fuck. Oh, I don't know what that is. Sacramento Kings center Rashawn Holmes has to quarantine for 10 days after, I like this part, accidentally leaving the campus borders. Holmes was picking up food delivery. While few details are available about where Holmes went, how far off campus he got, and what the order was, Holmes did issue a statement. Let's see if we can find the statement. Anyway, teams are expected to report violations of the league's protocols and such. What's interesting is in his statement, he did say that he accidentally left. I don't know. How do you, it's like, I'm a little bit pregnant. No, you didn't accidentally. I don't think someone pushed you over the line. You accidentally walked out. Come on. That's a little ridiculous. So with that, you're probably going to see a lot more of that. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they parlay this into the Tour de France and any of these other races that we get going here. If they try to do the similar thing all throughout the race, keep the public away. Maybe this is, the Giro, the people go there and say, oh, the crowds aren't too big. Like you get up and walk, or some of these other races, you just get easily, we'd see as a Tour of California, you get a little bit more easily walk up to riders and stuff. I guess the riders might even be a little more cautious about doing that. I mean, they're going to be cautious about taking bottles from the side of the road. You're probably not going to see any of that. But in those desperate times, you'll do it. Like you're on a group ride or guys out there just fighting up the climb and it's hot and he's off the back and some young kid is holding the bottle out to him. Are you going to take it? Maybe you just take the lid off and pour it over your head. Could be the way to go. But I'd be I don't know, maybe a little bit more concerned, skeptical, might be the way to say it, about whether you're going to see riders being able to take any kind of anything really from the side of the road. So maybe. How about some things that make you go, it's probably time at some point to get a little different sound segments. We do some different segments and change some things up here a little bit. But for right now, this is what we got. So what we're going to talk about. Well, I thought we would talk about maybe the EF. I saw this article that was kind of interesting about CyclingNews about evaluating EF Pro's cycling Tour de France long list. What made me kind of think about this was we had the Tour of Colombia earlier this year where the Colombians had just smashed it. It's also interesting. I just saw that I think it's this weekend. Colombia, the president of Colombia is getting together, and Jesus, this could go horribly wrong if something does go wrong. And I mean, like what was it? Was it trying to remember? Several years ago, it was a whole group of like Olympic athletes from like Colombia or somewhere, or crashed in Peru. I don't know, in the Indies or something like that. Their airplane went down. Maybe it was a boxing team or something like that. It was for Olympics. Dear God, I hope that doesn't happen. But I'm saying they're gonna get a whole plane, and they're gonna send like 160 some athletes from Colombia over to Europe. And they said that when they arrive over there in Spain, they've already cleared them, because if they say that they're cleared through whatever protocol that they have to, charter this plane and to go, they're going to be cleared, and they'll be able to basically get into the country without a problem. So that will be very interesting. So it was with this in mind, I saw that I went back to I saw this article. I thought it was quite interesting to talk about EF education first and in the tour, partly because of just how well they had done earlier in the year and done some well last year. So maybe we'll take a look and just walk through kind of their tour team and what they have to offer. So this is all in stating, because they're still pushing out that Rigoberto Urán is their man for the tour. So when you have that in mind, these are the riders that they think are going to be helpful. Rigoberto Urán, if you read Vader's book, he even dedicates part of it to him in there. He was really grateful. Team is going under. They're not sure they're going to get the EF education thing. And Rigoberto had just come off of, third place at the Tour de France. Was third or second. And, I think it was second place he had got, because I think he moved up with the time trial. So he was very impressive. He was kind of, could have garnered quite a bit of a contract from someone somewhere. And he told Vaughters, I'm going to stick with you. I'm going to hang out. I'm going to wait. And he waited and waited past the deadline. And basically Vaughters is like, this is so amazing. I think you're an amazing guy. So he's going to probably get the tour call up. And first of all, when you get second place, like I said, you're going to get a shot at going for the tour. I mean, TJ's got fifth place before, and he's not really getting the call up anymore. And yet I think he's barely like 30, or if he's in that. Okay, so then perhaps a few nailed on candidates. Probably only the Colombian climbers Rigoberto and Sergio Higuita. That's who they think might this article of who might be the people that EF would use for their primary GC riders. So who would be their support? Well, so you got those two guys. So the next one, Alberto Bettiol, 26 years old, raced the tour twice. He did it in. He was going for, what did they say here? He's a reigning Tour of Flanders champion. I don't know if he'll be able to defend that. And that's actually what they had required. The best preparation to defend your crown. And in 2020, the best classics preparation just happened to mean riding the Tour de France, or at least for the first 12 days. That would hardly impact EF in a negative way, given that Bettiol is some sort is in sort of rider. This makes me wonder, is he going to do the tour? I need to look at the schedule again. And then Mark Tucker says hi, gives a little clap there. We'll show that on screen. Thank you, Mark. Makes me wonder here with the way that so there's a rule in the UCI rule that, let's say you're in the Tour de France and you're doing the tour, you crash out, you have no fault of your own, maybe day one, maybe day two. The tour is 3 weeks long. By week 2, you're good to go. You want to race again. There's another race. Maybe the Tour of Austria is going on. Hey, I'm going to do the Tour of Austria. You can't, because you were signed up and you were participating in that first race. So it restricts, and that's just the most genial way of describing a situation that you had no power over on yourself. But now maybe you're a sprinter and you just decide you want to pull out and then you want to go do this other race. So there's a rule in place that you can't just quit a race and go and do another one. So you have to wait till that race was over and then you're qualified to go. I wonder with the compact season if they're going to change it. So is the Tour of Flanders during the Tour de France? Is Bettiol going to be able to do 12 days of the tour and then kick out and go and doing the Tour de Flanders? It'd be really interesting to see if that's the possibility. I think they should do that. Why not? It's a weird season anyway. So Bettiol, defending champ, we'll see what he does there. Hugh Carthy, 26 years old, hasn't raced at all, but he did. Remember, he's an English guy. He did super good in the Vuelta last year. I'm trying to remember if not the Vuelta, the Giro. I think he was 11th. And 11th or 12th. He and his teammate were right there next to each other, Dombrowski, but I don't think they were top 10. It could have been 10, 11, or 11 and 12, but they were right next to each other. He did pretty good. 26 years old, on the long list for the tour. EF requires climbers, and if they're serious about also mounting a sustained GC challenge, Cycling McCarthy would weaken the team's Giro options, but the tour is the tour, and now more than ever, with sponsors who are needing appeasing, you need your strongest team. And it will be the case this year. They're going to be able, it's the first event going on. It's the first one, the Grand Tour, at least it's the first one of the season. They're probably going to pack that as much as possible. It's just a shortened season, see what you can have. And maybe some of those guys don't have a great chance and they're crash out, or you get sick or something, you still have a chance, boom, get back in and you can do the Giro that comes up after the tour. Next one we have here is Simon Clark, 33, raced 5 different tours. He's usually the road captain. Yeah, so it says here, undisputed road captain. He hasn't lost his touch for the break or the win. Did he win? I'm trying to remember if there was a race last year that he won, like it was either an early season or was he doing well in the Vuelta. Magnus Curt, a little bit of a bigger guy. A Dane is far more than just a sprinter. He enters the best years. EF will be tempted to bring the 27-year-old. This is pretty young, all these guys. There's no Triple T this year. Remember, there's only one time trial. That time trial is up La Planche de Belfi on the second to last day of the race. So it's a climbing time trial. And so you're not going to really need these. You may restructure your whole race, because Chris and I were talking last week about bringing, you might need some of these guys for the classics, but the classics are kind of taking precedent because it's all intertwining this year. Maybe that's the thing. You're not having team time trial. You have a little bit of some of these more shortened stages. Maybe you do or don't. Maybe you need the big guys. Maybe you just need all the climbers. Lawson Craddock, you remember him, I think was it last year? He's done 2 tours. He was off the wrecked on day 1 and sat on the back the whole time and raised money for a Houston Velodrome. That's kind of his claim there. But he's a strong guy. He would Liège a few years ago. He did fairly well, and no time trial, but he can race, and he made the final list of 10 that trained in Girona before the final selection. I think that was last year. Yeah. Sergio Higuita, very impressive. He came on, was it last year at the Tour of California, stormed up the climb with Pogacar. Yeah, Pogacar, the next great thing, I think. 22-year-old had 1 Grand Tour to his name, but his 14th place in a stage win at last year's Vuelta. That's right, he won a stage at the Vuelta last year. Very impressive. String of other impressive results means the Colombian will head to the Tour. I think you're going to see him at the Tour, not a problem. Tano Kangert, 33, raced 5 tours, top result 16th in place. I don't know a ton about him, but just kind of a team rider there. Jens Kukelaar is a bigger guy, Belgian, done 3 tours, more like Curt. Daniel Martinez, I mean, he killed it there in Tour of Colombia this year. He's 24. He raced 1 tour. Was it the Vuelta? He made his debut at the Tour de France in 2018. Is on the long list after tackling the Vuelta in 2019. He started the season well and strong. Where he sits in the team pecking over, however, remains unclear. But remember, he was him, Higuita, and I'm trying to remember one other. Were riding really well Tour of Colombia earlier this year, going up against Egan Bernal, kind of killing it against him. Nilson Palace, this is our own guy, 23 years old, never raced the Tour, did the Giro last year. The Vuelta last year with Sepp Kuss, and obviously in defense, helping the win for Primož Roglič. And he was not quite as impressive as Sepp Kuss, but it was those Sepp Kuss, Roglič, and Nilson Palace, always one of the last 3 on the climbs. And it wasn't like when you saw Sepp Kuss do the Vuelta the year before that, where he was on the front, but only stages 1 through 10, and then you didn't see him anymore. This was last stages when they really needed it. Nilson Palace was there. Let's see what they say. A former Jumbo-Visma rider, has only 1 Grand Tour under his belt, but he's highly talented all-arounder. His pedigree at under 23 level was unquestionable, with the stage win apiece at the Baby Giro, Tour de l'Avenir, and his development in Jumbo-Visma was hardly stunted, but the EF offer more freedom and potential growth. It might be too soon for Palace to make his Tour debut, and he might instead benefit from another tilt at the Vuelta, where he can aim to show progress from last year. His GC results in the week-long races have been very consistent, but a breakthrough win would certainly propel him up EF's pecking order. Only thing I would say there is, does the team know how well he's been taking KOMs here in my backyard? We see him out all the time, and he's just snagging these things off right and left. We'll talk last about, before we head out, we'll get all through here, but one of the last things about the very individual South Canal Time Trial Series and the thing we had yesterday. He probably, just throwing this out there, he probably would have won that yesterday. Rigoberto ran 33, raced 6 tours. Yeah, second in 2017. He's going to be one of their unquestioned leaders, obviously. And the route is, they're saying the route is well suited to his style of racing. There's no time trial, so I don't know if it's all, I mean, he's a decent time trial. He's not the best. He doesn't necessarily stack up to some of the best time trialers, but he's definitely better than a lot of the climbers. So that could be good or bad. I don't know. Ran a just a sort of rider at 33, could be the watershed moment that helps him transition to a different role as his career moves into a different phase. TJ, 31, raced 8 tours. He's the most maybe seasoned of this whole group. Fifth, remember he was fifth 2 times there, 2012 and 14. Super domestique, dude, his mind, you hear an interview with him and he's, yes, John Nilsson Palace. Yes, Nilsson hopefully he makes it. Nilsson's going to get a chance. We'll go back to him real quick here. Nilsson definitely is going to get his chance to race one of the Grand Tours. Like I said, when you have them all so compact together, you're like, I don't think Adam, what's his name, from Australian, would be able to do the every, he was doing 18, 20 some tours in a row. He'd do the Giro, the Tour, and the Vuelta. I don't think a year like this year he'd be able to do that, because that'd be 30, 60, about 90 straight race days. Plus there's some overlapping. So it's just not possible. But with that in mind, TJ, interviews, he's okay. Now I'm not going to be mentally the team leader. And then, well, I'm going to be team leader. Well, now I'm changing, and it's always changing. It's always a mental thing. And now he's saying, I heard an interview not too long ago with him over the Corona break. And he's like, look, I spent so much time like trying to focus to be that climber that I didn't really focus on my time trialing. And so, now I'm going to go back to kind of my strengths. And I'm like, okay, there's always a new thing. And yes, God help you. I hope you do well. I would love to see you helping your team out there. Mike Woods, one of the most, he's only 33. So he's the same as Rand, but he just hasn't been around as long. Top raced once. He was 32nd in 2019. Remember, he won a stage in the Volta a few years ago. Super kicker. It's really emotional for him. Kind of comes out of the fog. Also, when 2019, was it 2019? No, 2018 World Championships. He was right up there with the sprint finish, kind of cramped in the finish, and Alejandro Valverde, the old man, ended up winning that. Canadian did fracture his femur in Paris-Nice this year, but postponement of the Tour de France from July to August has provided the 33-year-old with added respite and recovery time. His tour selection entirely rests on his form and fitness post-injury. Okay, we'll just stop there because he broke the femur. We don't know what kind of position he's in. Did he really break the femur? I see Chris Froome. We don't always know. He faked his crash. Maybe Mike Woods faked his as well. We don't know. We don't always know what these guys are doing. Nothing's true. Nothing's what it seems to be. No, but I think you get look. Mike Woods is, like I said, you're probably going to get chances of Mike Woods and some of these guys that maybe in a normal year, he might not make the tour team just simply because of his fractured, femur. Did I say femur? But this year he probably will be. Those that out there, maybe you'll know how bad John Novikov could probably recover from this, because he went from 20, 30 miles an hour to 0 in 0 seconds, hit a tree, smashed his leg up. He's still back on the bike. He was torn something in his knee. And he's still fine. He seems to be riding well. Maybe that's the case here. I don't know how bad a femur. God, that sounds like a horrible break. Do you remember a few years ago, Arnold Schwarzenegger was skiing and he got his foot. He's just at the bottom of the, waiting to get on the lift. And I think he got his skis crossed or something like this. And he was falling forward and he snapped his femur. Can you just, the weight, maybe, did his cleaning lady, did she push him? Was that what was going on there? Anyway, the femur sounds like a horrible, and I'm trying to remember, it was back when Chris Horner was first doing some of the Giro stuff, not with Trek, maybe with Sunner Duval, and he was doing the Giro and he made it like 15 days. He was doing great, but he had ended up riding with like a fractured hip or something like that for several days. I mean, let's imagine, John says, femur, I tried. Well, yeah, but you didn't try hard enough because you didn't break it. How about some winners and losers? I'm going to start with my winner. We're starting on the local scene here. We did this very individual time trial series up this climb we have here called Beatty. There's this, and I put out a video. If you want to check on our channel, I did a little breakdown of the ride beforehand. It's a little bit wrong on the route, but very close to what the route was. And it's like 9.5 minutes for the best guys or so, but the best guy was like 8 minutes. And his name was Lars Lofgren. He's a local guy. I imagine he's a masters racing, and we've seen him out on group rides. The guy absolutely killed it. 8:16 was his time. Next was, I think, Jason Graffath, somewhere around 9:11. Then Ryan O'Dell at 9:13. I was 9:17. There was a few other smatterings of other people, but Lars Lofgren, ridiculous climb up there. I was going down, I was warming up, and I was at the top going down the segment, and he was halfway up, just flying, and it was very impressive. So congrats to him. He's our winner for the week over here. Winner of a week for a few weeks ago, Mark Tucker, Bagley, those guys that went to Georgia. Congrats to them. And let me know if you're going back. I think that's probably going to be something you're going to do. The loser for the week is now I'm going to say this, and I want to stick with me until I finish the sentence. The loser of the week are all those women, pause, dramatic effect, all those women that were going to be able to do the Colorado Cycling Classic. It has officially been canceled. So here's get this up here. Colorado Classic doubles down on support for women's racing, even as 2020 edition gets canceled. July 17, just today, despite the fierce commitment to creating a safe live racing model and advancing the sport of professional women's cycling, the Colorado Classic, presented by VF Corporation, today announced that their 4-day race will not take place this year, citing COVID safety concerns, of course. Instead, the race organizer doubled down on the championship support of women's racing under their We Ride umbrella. So We Ride for Women's fundraiser and virtual ride. This campaign is intended to financially support. Okay, I'm not going to go on. You can read that if you want. There, the result really is they're not having the race this year. Very sad to see no racing. They're having virtual everything. We'll get back here to this. I just want to put this on the screen. Racing Tong in Georgia 2 next Friday. We're all going back. That's from Mark Tucker. So he's headed back to Georgia. We'll try to maybe do another update with him. And good luck, Mark. Appreciate you chiming in on that. The women. So Colorado, man, I'm disappointed. I was really hoping out there in Colorado that they were going to be able to have this race. Something big on the calendar for the women. Nothing else is going on. Maybe this would like kind of attract everyone in there, but evidently they just can't do it. So they're trying to funnel their money elsewhere. And look, I'll give the Colorado Classic people a little bit of a comment here. They're always pushing things out on social media. They're trying to stay relevant. They're trying to stay in the mix so that you get a little, because it's right now. I mean, look what we're doing on today's show. We're talking about all kinds of crap because we're trying to just have fun, stay in the mix, and keep this up. They're doing a virtual Tour de France. I've not followed any of that. Every once in a while I see some results in there. Not too interested. The reason I'm not too interested is because I'm going to get guff, I'm sure. When you're seeing a rally rider win a stage of the Tour de France, that's when you know it's not the Tour de France. I would love to see a rally rider win a stage of the Tour de France in real, but that's not going to happen. Number one, they're not going to get selected. And then two, it's just not going to happen. So that's why I know it's just virtual. We're doing what we can. But you know what we're doing out here? We're doing this little time trial series. We're going up hills. We're going down canals. Next week it's somewhere else. So if you're up in the Sacramento area and you want to join in this, check out our Facebook page. You can also link over there on the very individual time trial South Canal time trial series, and you can check all that out for all your needs for racing. That's all we've got for today, folks. So next time, maybe you guys can leave some comments in here and let me know, or hit us up on our Facebook page. When would be a good time on a week to do a live show? And we'll try to do it. If it's later in the afternoon, one of the reasons I'm doing it at 1:30 is because started this today is so I can just call it a day and go home. So I don't want to be doing this necessarily at home in the afternoon. It doesn't have to be on a Friday. Give me a date that maybe works best, maybe a Thursday, and we'll see what we can do. So other than that, I hope everyone is having a good day and that you are doing the best you can for riding. Get out there, get some sunshine. It's going to be a hot one this week. I think we're going to be going out, maybe. John, are we going to go to Forest Hill? Side-by-side riding? No, right? Can't have it any other way. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us today, the Between Two Wheels podcast. As always, hang in there. Check us out. Hey, while we got a chance, one last thing, everybody. Just click a like button. That's all you have to do. Maybe put a comment in there, 5 stars, saying, hey, I like this show, or not. But everyone should check it out themselves. All right. Take care. Between Two Wheels podcast, episode 183. Find us on Facebook, all the other places you can. Keep the rubber side down.